You're a Leo, and people think that means you're confident, loud, proud, and always craving attention. They see the charisma, the shine, the presence. They assume you're fine because you carry yourself like you are. But what they don't see, what you rarely show, is how much of that strength was built from pain, from early rejection, from having to prove your worth before anyone offered it freely, from learning that if you don't stand out, you might just get ignored. Leo isn't just the center of attention. You were taught to become that center because you didn't always feel chosen. You created identity through presence. You performed. You impressed. You learned how to walk into a room and shift the energy. Not because you wanted the spotlight, but because it was the only way you felt seen. And that started early. Maybe you were the child who had to act older than you were. Maybe you were praised when you were good, quiet, helpful, but punished when you were too expressive, too emotional, too much. So you learned to package your emotions into something that looked beautiful on the outside. You became your best version for the world and hid everything else behind that golden smile. But Leo, you're not just the image. You're not just the light you give off. You are depth. You are fire and fragility all at once. And behind that confidence is a heart that's terrified of being misunderstood, of being forgotten, of giving everything to people who only love you for the energy, not the essence. That's your secret. You don't need to be adored by everyone. You just need to feel deeply loved by the right ones. But when that love doesn't show up, when it's late, inconsistent, or halfway in, you act like you're unbothered. You pretend it didn't matter. You move on before the silence has time to sink in. Because nothing feels more threatening to a Leo than being emotionally irrelevant to someone they gave their light to. You give hard. You support everyone. You show up, even when you're depleted. You make others feel like royalty, while quietly wondering if anyone would ever do the same for you. And when they don't, you don't complain. You just go quiet. You pull back. You start doing what you've always done, carrying the weight with pride, like it doesn't cost you anything, but it does cost you. You carry the pressure of always being okay, of always being strong, of always knowing who you are, even when you're unraveling inside. You've become a symbol of power to people, while silently wondering if anyone would still love you if you stopped performing it. You rarely show your lows, not because you don't have them, but because you've been conditioned to believe that your value is in your ability to shine, to lead, to inspire, to stay up when everything around you is falling apart. And that pressure, it makes your silence louder than your presence ever could. Because Leo, you don't want to be the strongest in the room. You want to be held, seen, loved without having to earn it. You want someone to look at you on your worst day and say, you don't have to perform here. You want rest. You want peace. But every time you try to slow down, something whispers, they'll forget you if you stop glowing. That's the lie you've been living under, that your value is in the role, in the light, in how many people notice you, but your soul is exhausted. And it's not asking for more attention, it's asking for truth. Here's your flaw, and it's not just pride. Not the way people label you like you're arrogant or self-obsessed. That's surface level. That's what people see when they've only met the version of you that's still performing. The real flaw is deeper. It's the way you make yourself indispensable to people who don't even deserve access to your light. It's the way you try to earn love with consistency, with presence, with energy, instead of asking if that love is even real. You fall hard. You give more than you admit. And when you do, you expect loyalty, not perfection, but presence. You need to feel chosen. not just loved, prioritized. And when someone you've shown up for starts to pull back, even slightly, it cuts deep. Because you remember everything you gave, the hype, the effort, the emotional loyalty, the way you poured into them when they were still figuring themselves out. And now, you feel like they forgot. You won't always say it. Leo doesn't like to look needy, but your silence says more than your words. You withdraw your energy slowly. You start giving less, not to be petty, but because you feel disrespected. You feel replaced. And nothing hurts a Leo more than the feeling of being replaced by someone you would have given the world to. You don't just love big, you love loud. You show it in every way you can, but you expect to be loved back the same way. And when people fall short, you start questioning yourself. Not just, do they love me? But, was I not enough? You try harder. You turn the volume up. You overcompensate. Because deep down, you believe your love has to be earned. That if you're just impressive enough, loyal enough, needed enough, they'll stay. But Leo, love isn't performance. And your biggest pattern is this. You show up louder when you feel unseen. You give more when you should pull back. You try to fix the energy in the room when you weren't the one who broke it. And every time you do, you reinforce the belief that you have to carry the weight of the relationship. That love is something you build for two, even when you're the only one holding the hammer. That's where the resentment starts. You don't blow up, not at first. You simmer. You hold it in. You tell yourself to be patient, to stay loyal, to not make a scene. But over time, your light dims, not because you're broken, but because you're tired. Tired of trying to be the one who holds it all together while secretly wondering why nobody holds you. And when the final straw hits, you leave. Not always with a warning, not always with a conversation, but fully, quietly, completely. Because once Leo realizes they've been performing for a love that wasn't mutual, they burn the script. They cut the spotlight. They walk off the stage. Your healing starts when you stop tying your worth to how loved you are. When you stop making your loyalty a gift for anyone who simply shows up. When you finally say, I deserve to be poured into too. Not because you've earned it. Not because you've overgiven, but because you exist. Your glow-up isn't about proving anything anymore. It's about choosing differently. Choosing yourself. Choosing peace over proving. Choosing people who see you before you shine. People who don't need the performance. Who love you in the quiet. In the messy. In the in-between. Because, Leo, you're not just the fire. You're the soul inside it. And the people who are really for you, they'll love both. Leo, you're a fire sign, which means you're driven by instinct, momentum, and the need to feel alive in what you're doing. But here's the thing. Even fire has a rhythm. Even you, with all your ambition, presence, and emotional intensity, need seasons of pause, direction, alignment. Not every year is meant to be explosive. Not every season is about being seen. And if you don't honor your timing, you'll end up shining for everyone, while feeling disconnected from yourself. That's why understanding your personal year is everything. It helps you stop pushing where there's resistance. Helps you stop trying to force results when you're being asked to rest. And for someone like you, who feels pressure to always deliver, always be strong, this cycle gives you the permission to slow down without guilt. Let's break it down. Take your birth month and day and add it to the current year. Say you were born August 10th, 2006, and it's 2025. 8 plus 1 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 equals 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9. That would mean 2025 is a personal year 9 for you, a completion year. Here's the flow of the full cycle so you can feel the rhythm in your soul. Year 1 is new energy, a reset. It's all about stepping into a fresh identity and letting your old self rest. This is a start-over year, and Leo thrives here when the vision is clear. Year 2 is emotional. It slows you down. It tests your ability to be vulnerable, not just visible. You won't be in the spotlight, and that's the challenge. You have to sit in connection instead of control. Year 3 is expressive, creative. You come alive here. You're magnetic, but only if you're expressing what's real, not what looks good. If you perform here instead of tell your truth, it backfires. Year 4 brings structure, discipline, work. This year will test your endurance. It wants consistency, not charisma. You'll be asked to show up quietly, without applause. Year 5 is change, fast, intense. This is where you pivot, but you have to let go of what no longer fuels you. You'll want to cling. You'll want to fight for your past, but it won't serve you. Year 6 is love, home, balance. Big decisions in relationships, career, lifestyle. You'll be asked to look at where your energy goes, and whether it's feeding you or draining you. Year 7 is reflection, spirituality, slowness. Your outer world may look quiet, but inside, everything is shifting. This is a test of faith, not fire. You'll feel stripped down to your soul. Year 8 is power, money, reputation. You lead here. But Leo, this isn't just a glow-up. It's a responsibility. What you've built emotionally will either elevate you or expose you. Year 9 is release, endings. This is where you close cycles. It may feel like loss, but it's clearing the path for who you're becoming. Let go with grace. Your soul knows what it's doing. Then it resets. Back to year 1. New self, new mission, new direction. So where are you in 2025? If this is your year 9, you're closing. Don't force beginnings. Don't start relationships, brands, commitments from desperation. Reflect, finish. Let the things that aren't aligned fall away. Not because you failed, but because you've evolved past them. If this is your year 1, it's your reintroduction. But only if you've actually healed the last cycle. You don't need to rush to be seen. This time you need to build from truth. If you're in year 4 or 7, you're being humbled. These are quiet years, testing years. You'll feel invisible at times, but that's on purpose. You're being asked to love yourself without an audience. If you're in year 5, this is your shift. But don't let chaos dictate your moves. Choose change. Don't react to it. Get intentional, or you'll burn out chasing everything at once. And if you're in year 6, it's love and alignment. Where are you spending your fire? What relationships are worth the heat? What roles are you playing that no longer serve your soul? What to avoid this year? Creating just to be praised. Leading from fear of being forgotten. Holding on to projects or people just because they once gave you purpose. What to lean into? Reputation built on integrity, not image. Loyalty to your truth, not your ego. Creating from inspiration, not insecurity. Because Leo, your power doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being aligned. And when your fire matches your purpose, you don't just lead, you ignite everything around you. So what happens if you don't evolve? If you keep performing strength instead of living in truth? If you keep showing up for people who love the light, but don't stay when it flickers? If you keep burning for others who never stop to ask if you're okay? You'll keep being praised, admired, talked about like you're invincible, and inside, you'll be tired. You'll feel like a brand, not a person, a symbol of power, but never really held. You'll keep being the one who carries the room, the one who lifts others, the one who hides their pain under gold. But no one will know how heavy the crown feels when you're constantly performing worthiness, just to feel chosen. And Leo, you don't need to be chosen by everyone. You just need to be known by yourself. Because when you don't evolve, your fire turns to pressure. You start feeling like you can't stop, or they'll forget you. Like you have to constantly glow, or they'll move on. Like your only value is how loudly you shine, not how deeply you feel. But what if you evolved? What if you stopped proving? Stopped chasing applause? Stopped giving your best to people who only show up for your highlights? What if you stopped pretending you're fine when you're exhausted? What if you stopped faking confidence when you're unsure? What if you stopped needing to be needed and started needing to be real? That's when it shifts. You soften, not because you're broken, but because you're finally safe. You rest, not because you're weak, but because you've carried everyone else long enough. You stop trying to lead everyone and start leading yourself. You speak without performing. You love without conditions. You let people see you in the in-between, and the right ones don't flinch. You don't shrink, but you don't shout either. You start being heard even in your silence. Because when Leo leads from truth instead of image, you become unforgettable. Not because you forced it, but because you finally became real. Your glow-up isn't louder, it's quieter. It's the moment you stop saying, "I'm good," when you're breaking. It's the moment you cry without apologizing. It's when you let someone hold you, and you don't push them away. You stop needing to be powerful all the time. You start choosing peace over performance. You realize that your legacy won't be how brightly you shine for others, but how deeply you return to yourself. Because Leo, the real ones don't need your gold. They need you. And the right ones, they'll love you when you're glowing, but they'll stay when you're still.